They laughed when she offered just $1 for the battered, unwanted dog, bloodied, locked in a cage and dismissed as useless. No one cared what happened next, but what that little girl did after taking him home. It didn't just silence the crowd. It uncovered a truth that changed everything. But in the far corner, behind a rusted cage, barely held together by twisted wires, sat a dog no one wanted. His fur was matted with dried mud and blood. A fresh wound slashed across his muzzle. One ear drooped lower than the other, and his eyes, tired golden eyes, reflected something deeper than pain. People passed him by without a second glance, some even snickering. Probably a failed guard dog, someone muttered. Looks like he lost more fights than he won. The auctioneer didn't bother to introduce him. He simply shouted, "Any takers?" Starting at $1. Not a single hand went up. Just as the auctioneer turned to move on, a small voice broke the silence. "I'll take them." Heads turned. A little girl, no older than 6, stepped forward from the crowd. Her purple hoodie was slightly too big, sleeves bunched at her wrist. In her tiny hand, she held a single crumpled dollar bill. The crowd chuckled softly, unsure if this was a joke, but her eyes, wide, steady, and fixed on the dog, held no trace of humor. She wasn't laughing. She wasn't afraid. She simply looked at the wounded German shepherd like he mattered more than anyone else there ever had. The barn erupted in laughter. Rough voices echoed off the wooden walls, some amused, others mocking. $1 for that mangy mutt. One man scoffed, shaking his head. The auctioneer looked down at the girl, hesitating. "Sweetheart, this ain't a petting zoo," he said gently. "You sure about this?" The little girl didn't flinch. She stepped closer, holding up her dollar with both hands like it was the most precious thing in the world. "I want him," she said softly. The laughter faded to murmurs. Something about her voice, soft but certain, cut through the crowd's disbelief like a quiet, powerful truth. The auctioneer blinked, unsure what to do. After a long pause, he let out a sigh, gave a half smile, and tapped his gavel lightly on the post. Sold for $1. A hush fell over the barn as the little girl stepped forward. Her tiny fingers reached out and pressed the crumpled bill into the man's hand. It was all she had, saved from weeks of coins and pocket change, but to her it was worth every cent. She walked to the cage slowly, her shoes crunching on the straw-covered floor. The German shepherd didn't move, only watched her with weary, tired eyes. She crouched beside him, her face close to the rusted bars. "It's okay now," she whispered. "I'm taking you home." The dog didn't growl, didn't bark. He just stared, then blinked slowly. And in that quiet, fragile moment, something between them shifted. A girl had just bought a broken dog, but love was already starting the rescue. In that quiet ride home, no one spoke, but somehow between the girl and the broken dog, a silent bond had already begun to grow. That night, the dog curled up in a corner of the girl's room, his body tense, eyes flicking at every sound, the soft ticking of the clock, the creak of the old house. Everything made him flinch. He wouldn't touch the food in the bowl, wouldn't take the blanket she laid beside him. But he didn't growl either. He just watched. The little girl didn't push him. She sat a few feet away, legs crossed, holding a storybook in her lap. She began to read softly, not for him to understand, but to feel safe, and slowly his breathing eased, just a little. The dog stirred as the girl approached with a bowl of water. This time he didn't flinch. He looked at her, then slowly drank. When her father knelt down to check his injuries. He gasped softly. The scars weren't just recent. They told stories of pain, deep gashes along his ribs, healed burns near his tail. Someone had heard him again, and again. The girl sat beside him and whispered, "Your name is Chance now." The dog blinked almost like he understood, and for the first time his tail gave a single hesitant wag. Day by day, something in Chance began to change. The flinching slowed, his eyes softened. He started to follow the little girl around the house. Not close, but close enough to feel safe. And one morning, when she opened her eyes, he was lying beside her bed, his head resting on her slippers. The family watched in awe. This wasn't the same dog from the cage. The girl taught him simple things: sit, stay, and how to catch treats midair. He learned fast, eager to please. But more than anything, Chance began learning how to trust. Again, it was a warm afternoon when the little girl wandered toward the edge of the backyard near the thick trees lining the woods. Chance followed, tail wagging. Lazily, ears perked but relaxed. Suddenly, a sharp rattling sound broke. The quiet, a rattlesnake, coiled and ready to strike. Before the girl could scream, Chance lunged. His bark split the air as he threw himself between her and the snake. The fong struck his leg, and he let out a painful yelp. But he didn't back down. The snake slithered away, but Chance collapsed. The girl dropped to her knees, tears spilling. Her hero was hurt. Her screams brought the entire household running. The father scooped Chance into his arms, blood dripping from the bite wound. The dog whimpered but didn't struggle. His eyes searched for the girl as she ran beside them, sobbing. They sped down the road, tires screeching on pavement. The vet was already closing, but when they saw the urgency, they rushed him inside. The girl clung to her mother in the waiting room, her small hand shaking. "Please, save him," she whispered over and over. Inside, the vet worked fast, at anti-venom for fluids prayers. The fight for Chance's life had begun. Word spread quickly through the small town. The story of the worthless dog who took a snake bite to save the girl traveled from porch to porch, cafe to cafe. People who once laughed at her dollar offer now stood silent, shaken. Neighbors began showing up at the vet clinic, some with flowers, others with treats or blankets. A few brought envelopes quietly slipped into the family's hands with notes that simply read, "For Chance." Even the auctioneer stopped by. He looked down at the sleeping dog and murmured, "Didn't see a hero that day, but I see one now." Days passed and slowly Chance began to heal. The swelling in his leg went down. He walked with slight limp now, but his spirit was stronger than ever. The scars no longer looked tragic. They looked like medals. The dog, once left for dead, was now full of life because someone believed he was worth saving. She reached down and stroked Chance's head. "He's not just my dog, he's my best friend and my hero." The crowd erupted in applause.